everyone, and welcome to Rose Red Homestead Micro Moment Monday, where today I need to revisit beef tallow for just a few moments to clarify some things that I said in our video about 3 weeks ago when we did our video on how to render beef fat to make beef tallow. Jim, what's happening? What?
We have a lightning sale going on today. Mountain time between 4 and 6 p.m. Today, only 2 hours. Let's see what this looks like. You want to hold this, please? If I can get it off, you can get it off.
Oh,
okay, there we go.
Our big book.
This is Pam and Cindy's big book. A comfortable food security plan for uncomfortable times.
So, what price did you decide on?
Normal price is $24.99. And what we're doing is we're going to go ahead and go down to $15.
Let me see your shirt again.
Yes, my shirt. Flash sale, lightning sale, whatever it is.
Okay, today.
Today.
Only today.
Only today,
2
4
hours.
to 6 p.m. Mountain time.
Mountain time, and that's
Mountain time.
That's some people got mixed up last time we did a lightning sale.
Mountain time, 4 to 6 p.m.
Okay, bye. Okay, well, that was he said he was going, oh, there he went and photobombed us again. He said he was going to photobomb us sometime. I wondered why he wanted to put the camera up on the tripod today, but now we know. So it's so much fun to be married to Jim. He's just full of surprises all the time. So back to our previous video on tallow. I repeated some things in that video that I had found doing some research where I made a statement about how tallow is high in vitamins and some of the benefits of tallow. And I may have left an impression that tallow is a healthy fat. Well, we're going to go over that today. One of the things that I did say was for us to remember that tallow is a saturated fat, very high in saturated fats, and that we needed to be careful with it, and I didn't want my arteries clogged up with saturated fat. And that elicited a response from several people about how tallow does not clog our arteries. Well, that sent me back to the research, and so I rechecked on everything. And so there are some things that I want to clear up today that you may be interested in if you are using tallow. First of all, I think the bottom line is, even though the title of the video is, Does Tallow Clog Our Arteries? I think the question is that we really need to know, the answer to is tallow a healthy fat? So I'm going to take you back to the time when we were doing videos on high nutrient density. And you may remember that nutrient dense foods are those that are low in calories, high in nutrition. And we talked about 2 different types of nutrition measurements. There's the macronutrients, and those are the fats and the protein and carbohydrates. And then there are the micronutrients, and those are the vitamins and minerals. And so it's further clarified for nutrient-dense foods that it's not just any old protein, fat, or carbohydrate, but rather it is lean protein, it is healthy fat, and it is complex carbs. And so what we're wanting to do today is answer the question, is tallow a healthy fat? Well, I may have given the impression in that previous video that it is a healthy fat, even though I said be cautious because it is a saturated fat. So I'm going to readdress a couple of things just really quickly and just let you know that whatever you believe about tallow, whatever health benefits you think tallow has, you can find confirmatory evidence out on the internet written by somebody or published by somebody, because the research on tallow, the information on tallow on the internet is all over the map. And so what I have tried to do is home in on scientific evidence and sources that I trust. And I'm afraid I was a little bit misleading in a couple of things, so I'm going to clarify that. So first of all, about the micronutrients, the vitamins, I said that in that previous video that tallow is high in vitamins A, D, E, and K. Well, it depends. It depends on what you consider to be high in those vitamins. Those 4 vitamins are fat soluble, meaning they are not washed out of our body like water soluble vitamins are. Water soluble vitamins like vitamin C, it's tough to overdose on vitamin C because when we take it in, what our body doesn't use is just washed out with our urine. But not with ADEK. ADEK are fat soluble vitamins that reside, that are housed, are absorbed into the fat in our bodies, and then they are released as our body needs them. But because they're not washed out, it is possible for us to overdose on those and develop a vitamin toxicity. That actually happened to Jim right after we first moved here. He had just had his thyroid removed, and his doctor at our previous location had described high doses of vitamin D for him to help compensate for the loss of his thyroid. And so as we moved here, he was under instructions from that doctor to keep up that dosage. Well, he began to get pretty sick and pretty bizarre symptoms. And so as soon as we were able to find a doctor here, and boy, did we ever find a fantastic and wonderful doctor, she knew immediately that he was experiencing vitamin D toxicity. Once the levels of his vitamin D went down, then he returned to normal, which is his wild and crazy self. But it's
lightning sale, lightning sale.
So, one of the sources online, there are several sources online that are good, huge databases that you can go to, and you can enter an ingredient to a recipe or a food, and you can find out what the nutritional data is on a given food. And if you plug in tallow or beef fat to any of those, and I use the one from the USDA, and they all pretty much say the very same thing. In 100 grams of tallow, and that's what this is right here, 100 grams, it's just short of a half a cup. In this much tallow, now if you remember, a gram can be, you can relate it to 1 gram is about the same as 1 raisin in mass. So think about raisins. This is about 100 raisins of mass of this tallow. So for vitamin E, for this much tallow, there's 2.7 milligrams. Very tiny amount. That's like 2.7 thousandths of 1 raisin. So that's a very tiny amount. For vitamin D, it is even exponentially smaller, literally. It is 0.7 micrograms, which is 0.7 of 1 millionth of a raisin. And it is not even measuring vitamin K or vitamin A. Now, if the tallow is made from suet that comes from grass-fed cows, it bumps those levels up a little bit. But I'll tell you, with those tiny amounts, I'm not even counting tallow as a source of vitamins in my diet. To me, that would be ridiculous because those amounts are so tiny. So in terms of it being a healthy fat, it does not qualify because it's very high in calories and it has no nutrition. Now, is it a total bust? No, it isn't. Because the vitamin E present in tallow makes it really nice for skin, that little bit of vitamin D, it's fine. We don't have to avoid it completely, but it is mostly saturated fat. Now, here is what some of the things have been written by the Harvard School of Public Health. That's a trusted source for me. And then for the American Heart Association, which is another trusted source of mine. So from Harvard, the good fats are the unsaturated fats, mono and polyunsaturated fats, and they have been known to reduce the risk for disease. And the fats that qualify for the good fats are vegetable oils such as olive, canola, sunflower, soy, and corn, along with nuts, seeds, fish, avocados, and olives. So, and canola oil is in there, and a lot of you I know do not trust canola to be an oil of choice. I have read the pros and cons literature, the scientific studies that have been done on canola oil. It is one of my favorite oils, and I use it all the time, and I have no qualms at all about using it. Now, the bad fat, the trans fat, is partially hydrogenated vegetable oil. That is very dangerous fat, even in a small amount. And thankfully, trans fats have been completely removed from almost everything that we can buy nowadays. Crisco took trans fat out of their recipe for shortening years and years ago. So that also is good to know. The saturated fats are not as good as the unsaturated fats, but they're not as bad as the trans fats. And so it's kind of like Goldilocks, not too hot, not too cold, but just somewhere in the middle. The saturated fats, by comparison, they do negatively impact health and are best consumed in moderation. Now, the saturated fats, we can usually tell which ones those are because they are solid at room temperature, like lard and like this tallow is. So, lastly, the Heart Association, American Heart Association, tells us that eating too much saturated fat can raise the level of LDL cholesterol in your blood. A high level of LDL cholesterol increases our risk of heart disease and stroke. Saturated fat and the bad cholesterol can contribute to the buildup of plaque in our arteries. It is not that if we eat tallow, it's going to go right in and plug up our arteries. That's not the way it works. Over half a lifetime, over years, there can be a small buildup gradually of saturated fats, of which tallow is one, and the bad cholesterol that gives us problems with our heart. Now, examples of foods with saturated fats, and this is from the American Heart Association: beef, lamb, pork, poultry, especially with skin, beef fat tallow, lard, cream, butter, cheese, ice cream, coconut, palm oil, palm kernel oil. And here's what they recommend. Remember the big picture, and I love that attitude. When we just home in on one little thing, we have blinders on. So when we expand our vision and look at things in place of the whole big picture, then this is how we might be thinking about it. Balance calorie intake with calorie needs to achieve and maintain a healthy weight. Choose whole grains, lean and plant-based protein, and a variety of fruits and vegetables. Limit salt, sugar, animal fat, processed foods, and alcohol. So what they recommend is to limit our intake of saturated fat to no more than 5 or 6% of our daily intake of calories. And so if we are on a 2,000 calorie diet, for example, that means that it would be about 120 calories should come from saturated fat, which is about 13 grams, the mass of 13 raisins. And so I can tell you that I am loving using tallow for certain things. I use it maybe once a week, maybe a teaspoon or a couple of teaspoons. I've used it a couple of times now making stir fry. And I love the fact that it does such a great job of frying and of heating up food at higher temperatures. It has a very high smoke point, which means it can be used at high temperatures. But I'm very sparing. I don't use it every day, and I'm limiting our intake of saturated fat. So as we think about nutrient-dense eating, is tallow a healthy fat? No, it does not qualify. But does that mean we can't eat it? No, we can eat it because it fits into a larger picture. If we're eating healthy in all regards and keep the consumption to 5%, about 5% of our calorie intake, then it won't hurt us. So I hope this helps and can clarify the presentation that we gave in our previous video. So we want to thank you so much for all of your
We are back. I'm back. To remind you about our lightning sale. Lightning sale. And again, today between 4 and 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 40% off.
Is that what it is?
That 40% off the regular price.
Well, that's a pretty good deal.
That's a pretty good deal.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lightning Bolt. Never a dull moment with Jim around. Thank you so much for being with us, and we appreciate your support very, very much. And we'll see you next week for another micro moment.